Hello and welcome to the show. It is about time we had some Rotary power take on the rally course. So I have decided it was a tough choice as to what Rotary vehicle to use, whether we go, of course, for an Rx-8. However, I have plumbed for the Savanna Rx-7. It is back in a Forza game. I think it's Forza 4 was the last time we had this car. It is now back in Horizon 3 thanks to the latest DLC pack. And I'm going to turn it into a rally car. Not quite as far-fetched an idea as you might possibly expect. There was, admittedly, I think it was the previous generation of Rx-7 was eligible to run as a Group B rally car. There were a few of them made. I don't think they've actually competed. I don't think they did particularly well compared to the likes of the Quattro, the 205 and the Lanciers and so on, but they were a car that was eligible to run, at least in Group B. So yeah, a Rally Rx-7, not quite the craziest of ideas. We have got a body kit to go with this one. Okay, that's quite nifty. I will take the wide body kit on this car. I believe that will give me options for wider tyres, which is good. We will go for all-wheel drive, as we have to with this series now. I will come back to engine. I'm not sure how much power we're going to get out of the standard engine. We might possibly have to go for a quad rotor. And that would be very, very crazy. We will see on that one. What we are going to want is some Forza Aero. We want the downforce that we can... Ooh, that's an interesting way of doing a rear wing. That's a very interesting way of doing a rear wing. It actually makes sense having... So, as you can see, with the way that this rear window... in fact, we take off all the wings completely. The way that the rear window kind of ends, there's no real boot as such to speak of. So where do you mount a big rear wing? Well, you kind of put some scaffolding for it to go on. That's quite a clever system, actually. Often Forza wings can get quite silly on awkward cars, but that's quite neat over there. What have we got here? Okay, so we've got a slightly different vents and a slightly lighter bonnet. Sure, you know what, we'll go for that. We've faffed about. Now, to the tyres, naturally, we must be using the off-road compound tyres. That's 295s on the front. There's going to be 295s on the rear as well. Pretty big tyres on this car, which is nice indeed. We will go... Actually, we'll come back to that after we decide what we're doing with the engine. We will go for handling parts up next. Off-road springs and dampers, of course, give us that little bit higher ride height, softer suspension. Hopefully, it will mean we survive the bumps. A roll cage, of course, and as much weight reduction as we can. £2,800, not a bad weight, actually, for a car on this course. It's not too absurdly light that it's going to get completely thrown around on the bumps, but it's also not too heavy. Let's have a look. Can we, if needed, actually get the quad... Oh, we can't get the quad rotor into the car in this, guys. So, let's hope, fingers crossed here, that the standard engine is going to get us the power that we need. I am not sold on that, but we shall see. I mean, the power is shooting up. The power is shooting up very, very quickly on this car. That's... Not the power, sorry. The PI is shooting up very quickly on this vehicle, which is quite impressive, actually, for the history I've had with cars in this series. 457 horsepower. This is not going to be the most powerful car that we have seen run down here. That is for sure. Power-to-weight ratio isn't going to be massive, but we might have some nice control, which is always a big plus point with these vehicles. We will get the diff on. I was just making sure we could get all of those parts on before we go stick sort of oil and cooling on. That will give us another 14 horsepower. It is adding a little bit of weight, but it's not too much. It's, what is it, 9 pounds and 14 horsepower. I think I will take that. 392 torque in this engine. We will have a look just in case we can sneak on a flywheel. We can get one stage of flywheel. Might as well. Save us a couple of pounds and so on. Might as well put it on the car. So, curious. I was expecting a little bit more power out of this vehicle after the history we've had of cars in this series. Relatively tame on the power front. I'm hoping we're going to have lots of control. This could be a really, really nice car to drive through the rally course. And a fairly mighty wing to go with it as well. Well, much glorious rotary noise is about to fill the reservoir trail as the Rx-7 is going to get 3 runs through this course. The time to beat, 2:30.9 set by the Ford Falcon, is a rather daunting target time. That Ford had some 700 horsepower. I think the Rx-7 may be a little bit underpowered for this course, but we shall have to wait and see. Indeed, we're doing about 128 miles an hour as we go through the puddle. The Mini was doing 150. We have seen a few cars cracking the 150. Down there it is, though, flat out around that opening corner, which is nice, and there is so much more grip through the corners with this vehicle. It can really carry some nice speed, and it's going to have to. It's going to have to indeed around here. This track, all about keeping up your momentum through the medium speed sections. And, well, this car doesn't have the power to make up for little mistakes. It doesn't have the power to punch it out of the other side of the corner. I mean, it's still got plenty of power. Do not get me wrong. There is still plenty of power in this vehicle. But when you're going up against 1,000 or near enough 1,000 horsepower muscle cars, you're going to have an answer for it. And this maybe might have the cornering grip, although we've been thrown about a little bit. We are out wide on the way into that corner, not so good. We are struggling perhaps a tad on the way up that hill, not too... It looked like a vicious landing. That was actually not too bad. The way the car bounced back up into the air, although I've carried way too much speed through there. That was my dumb. That was my bad through that section. What I was saying before I got a little carried away, the way the car bounced back up looked bad. However, we have been seeing from the last couple of cars that got big airtime through there, when they came crashing back down, they lost all their momentum. The way that this just got bounced back up into the air, it kind of kept the momentum going. And because it was a relatively straight landing and the car was pointing the right direction, it didn't matter that we had a couple of seconds with the front end pointing up at the sky. We could get away with it, and we kept the momentum going, which is always nice. Now, as we come into the large puddle of water, how do we do through the water in the Mazda? It's not terrible. It's not terrible. I turned a little bit too soon. I think I should leave the car out wider, otherwise we end up, at an awkward angle, basically, trying to cut through the puddle. Now, I am taking this tighter line down here. All manner of wrong. All manner of wrong on those bumps. That has not worked. That has not worked for the Rx-7, and we've met a tree. Okay. We got a little bit thrown about on those bumps. I was kind of hoping that we weren't. Across these jumps here, though, is quite nice on the landing. I will give it that. It is quite nice on the landing there, and I feel quite confident in, throwing this car through the corners as we now run towards the finish line. Yeah, couple of little errors. I mean, the time is woefully awful. However, there was a trip into some trees and, running very, very wide at one corner. So there is definitely some times we found. I'm liking the Rx-7 so far. So it is on to the second run with the Rx-7. There is certainly some time, certainly plenty of time, in fact, to be had if I can keep the vehicle out of the tree line. And I really am going to have to make the most of the handling, make the most of the corner speed that I can get out of the vehicle. I mean, that's 150 on the exit there. In fact, that's very, very comfortably flat out through turn one. I think it's the most comfortable we've had any car through that opening corner, and it's pretty damn good on this tarmac section. It is pretty damn good indeed. Brakes are much nicer than the Teslas, although admittedly the Tesla may well go a little bit faster at that section. I can't remember what speed the Tesla was getting before it got on the brakes, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Tesla had some 700 horsepower, 900 torque. That's a lot in that car. It does weigh a hell of a lot, but still, that is a lot for a vehicle. Now, I'm hoping, and indeed we are, flat out all the way through that section as we now head down the hill through there. I've managed to run a bit wide. I was slightly on a wrong trajectory heading towards the water, tried to correct it, and that was not good, although we're not losing time on that landing. In fact, we're carrying so much speed down there, it very nearly put me wide at the bottom of the course because I wasn't quite expecting it. Haven't been used to cars carrying speed nicely down that down that jump of late. Again, not quite a perfect run. I think I am now trying to carry too much quarter speed with this car. I know I've got to make up the time. I know I've got to make up the time somewhere because we just simply aren't climbing these hills as quickly as we have been in some other cars. We just don't have the power. And this is not massively light either compared to other cars that have been. This is not a particularly light vehicle. So in terms of power to weight ratio, we are quite a bit down. We're probably about the same weight that the Ford was, and the Ford had 700 horsepower. Yeah, you can see the issues we are up against when it comes to acceleration. We just simply can't get it going. We do have good traction, so what we're having to do is try and carry the corner speed, keep the momentum up through these turns, keep it fast down this back straight, and it is good here. It is really good down here, which does make for a nice change. In fact, that might be some of the best we have seen a car manage those big jumps as we stop it for the final turn. Is a better run? Is a better run indeed this time. That's a good time actually in a 2:35. Considering we got thrown about a bit in the early stages of that run. Definitely more time to come from the Rx-7. I still maintain this is a hell of a nice car to drive. So it is on to the final run with the Rx-7, and it is looking quite unlikely that it's really going to be able to challenge the Ford. We would need some 6-ish seconds down this course, and that's a lot. I think there is definitely time to be found in this car, but 6 seconds is asking a lot, and considering that is all going to have to be made up through the corners because, well, we don't have the power. We do not have the acceleration of that Ford. We can't really compete with it. I don't think I can quite make that much up, but I'm going to do the very best that I can. I would love to see a Rotary go towards the top of the table, and this has been a really nice car. A really, really nice car to drive through this course. Of all the rally cars I have built, this is probably the most cooperative down this course. The Ford Ute was actually really good. The very first build that I did, I was slightly spoilt with because the Ute was actually really very, very good down this course. There been a few good cars, but this is probably the easiest to drive of the lot. It's the most cooperative over the bumps. It carries a lot of quarter speed very well. The front end gets turned in. There's perhaps a teensy bit of oversteer, but it's certainly not unmanageable. Ooh, we got a little bit of that was actually a really interesting way across the jump. We clipped one of the rear wheels as we took off, but that really helped us out. If I could do that every time, that'd be really helpful. The way that it sort of tipped the car back down again meant that we lost absolutely no momentum on the landing of the jump, and it was all perfectly controlled. That was really, really helpful, but yeah, you can't do that if you try. And that does generally indicate you're a little bit slower on take-off, if you manage to do that. I'm concentrating really hard trying to thread the car. Also, you've got to be very, very aware of gears with this. When we are down on power, and, well, we're in a Rotary, all of the power that there is here is at the very, very top of the rev range, which means if I'm in the wrong gear at the wrong time, we get nothing. You can get away with that in some of the other vehicles that have gone down here, some of the other engines and some of the much powerful, much torquier engines. You can get away with being in slightly the wrong gear. This you can't. There is no leeway in the Rotary here. Okay, up towards the big jumps. Now, I have been praising you, Mazda. Please do continue that down here. It is looking up at the sky, but it is perfectly controlled. That is so nice to have a car that I trust down those jumps. Around the final corner we go. Put down that Rotary Fury towards the line. It is, I think, a smidge faster that time out to 235.5. But yeah, it's a lovely car to drive. It is an absolutely joyous car to drive, that Rx-7. I really, really recommend it. I really do, because that is perhaps, of all the cars, that is the easiest to drive, that is the most cooperative. The one that I would, recommend to somebody that perhaps is less experienced taking on this rally course. However, it is down on power in terms, when you're competing against a 700 horsepower muscle car that weighs about the same, it's just not got the acceleration to get up the hills. And it is quite easy for that 6 seconds to to go. Or 5 seconds to go, I should say. Yeah. Still not a bad time, though. A 2:35.5 is not a bad time at all. In fact, I'm just having a glance at the leaderboards. We have a dead heat. This is the first time in any of my Forza build series where we've had an actual dead heat. The Rx-7 set an identical time down this course to the Ferrari 166mm. It is just a fraction down on the R32 Skyline, the Talbot Sunbeam. It does beat the Subaru SVX, beats the Ford Pursuit Ute and the BAC model, the Opel Manta as well. Yeah, I really recommend this Rx-7 as a great car to drive. It might not quite have the brutal power required for such a fast course like this, but it is a incredible handling car. However, that is going to be it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.